So section R4, factor polynomial, we have to do 2 steps. Step 1, find the greatest common factor, the GCF. Then, so always you have to do these steps. Always start with step 1. You're gonna check the polynomial. If there's GCF, the greatest common factor, you're gonna take it out. We're gonna learn how to do that. Then after that, if there's exists a GCF, you're gonna factor it out. If there is no GCF, you're just gonna go to step 2. Step 2, it depends about how many terms do you have. If you have 2 terms, like polynomial with 2 terms, which is binomial. If you have 3 terms, that means trinomial. If you have 4 terms, 2 terms, we're gonna use this method. It's called difference between 2 squares. If you have 3 terms, you're gonna use the AC method. And if you have 4 terms, you're gonna use the factoring by grouping. So we're gonna start working on step 1. Then after that, we're gonna go to do the 4 terms. Then we're gonna go back to the 3 terms. Then we're gonna go back to 2 terms. So we're gonna start with this one, then go back, then to the 2 terms. So here's the chart. This is really important. I need you to write down this chart. So you're not gonna forget, always the first step is find the GCF. Then step 2, it depends about how many terms do you have, 2 terms, 3 terms, or 4 terms. This is really important, how to factor the polynomial for this course. So the GCF, which is the greatest common factor. I'm going to give you an example how to find the GCF. We're going to start working with examples. This is the first example. If you have 6x squared, let's do it just like this, plus 9x cubed. The first thing here, this is polynomial. How many terms do I have? I have 2 terms. Always, you see this chart? Always, when I need to factor the polynomial, I'm gonna do step 1, finding the GCF. This is always, I'm not gonna care about how many terms do I have. If I have 1 term, 2 terms, 3 terms, 4 terms, I'm not gonna care. I'm gonna do step 1, find the GCF. If you look here, we have 2 terms. This is the first term, and this is the second term. I need to find the common between these 2 terms. So I can take it out, make my solution easier. The common between these 2 terms. So I'm gonna do the analyze here on the side. The 6 and the 9, I'm gonna start with numbers. The 6 and the 9. The 6 equal, if you factor the 6, that's why we're doing factoring. So I'm gonna factor the number and I'm gonna factor in the variables. So the 6 is 2 times 3. And the 9 is 3 times 3. So you can tell from here, from these 2 numbers, what's the common? What's the number exists here and exists here? The 3. So I'm going to put circle here and I'm going to put circle here. This is the common, the number exists on 6 and exists on the 3. That means this number, the 3 exists on 6 and exists on 9. So this is the GCF between the numbers. Now I need to find the GCF between the variables. So x squared, that means x times x. Is that right? Because if there's no exponent, that means the exponent 1. 1 plus 1 is going to be 2. Now x cubed equal x times x times x. 1, there's no exponents, that means 1. There is no exponents, that means 1. And 1 plus 1 plus 1 is going to be 3. So you see, I'm factoring the variables. Now, what's the common? the common 2x's here and 2x's here. That means the common between these is x squared. Why I write down x squared? Because I'm taking 2x's from here and I'm taking 2x's from here. So the common here, x squared. Now, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna write down 3x squared. This is the GCF. The GCF between 6x squared and the GCF between 9x cubed. I'm going to open parentheses. Now, here inside the parentheses, we're going to write down what's the leftover. So I'm going to start with the first term. Who has a question until here before I move into the next step? The first step, taking the numbers on the side, factor the numbers. What's the common? You see the 3. I put circle here, circle here. The common is the 3 between the 6 and the 9. Here's the 3. Now, what's the common between x squared and x cubed? X squared, that means we have 2 x's. X cubed, that means we have 3 x's. The common between x squared and x cubed, 2 x's from here, 2 x's from here, which is x squared. So I'm not going to write down x times x. I'm just going to combine these 2 x's to x squared. Write down 3x squared here on the side. I'm going to open 2 parentheses. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
And why wouldn't show the x1? For example, there's x1 and under it there's x1 too.
This one?
No, the first one.
Yeah, because I'm factoring the x squared. You remember we have a rule. It says, remember there's a rule, we took it with the rule of exponent. If we have, I'm going to do it here. If we have a to the exponent m times a to the exponent m. This is the rule of exponents. What are we going to do? We have the same number. It's going to be a n plus m. All right? This is the rule. So I'm doing the same thing. If we have x times x, how much is going to be the result? X times x, how much is going to be the result? How much the exponent here?
1.
1. How much the exponent here? 1. 1 plus 1. Okay?
Yes.
Now check here what I'm doing. I'm doing the opposite thing. I'm saying x squared, which is equal x times x. Is that the same thing?
Yes.
Yes. That's what I'm doing. So if you remember last section when we used the polynomial and the exponents, we multiplying the exponents, we add the exponents. Now we're going to do the opposite thing. We have the x squared and we need to factor it to the small pieces. X squared, I'm going to factor the x squared to x times x. X cubed, how many x do we have here? 3 x's. That's what you're going to do with the variables. To make everything easier for you, we're going to factor the x cubed to small pieces. X, x, x. And instead of put together the x's, we're going to factor the x cubed to small x's. Okay, that's what we're going to do here. So the first thing with the GCF, factor the numbers and factor the variables. We're going to do more examples. It's going to be easier for you. Every time when you see the word factoring, this is the first step. Find the GCF. So now, the GCF between 6 and 9 is a 3. The GCF between x squared and x cubed is x squared. Here is the x squared. Now here inside the parentheses, I need to write down the leftover from this term plus the leftover from this term. Check here what I'm going to do. 6 divided by 3 is going to be what? 6 divided by 3 is going to be 2.
2.
I have x squared. Who's going to tell me the result? Divide by x squared. How much the result? X squared. Divide by x squared. Again.
X.
No, wait, again. That's good. Okay. So x squared divide by x. Do you have exactly the same x's? If you cancel here, this one with this one, how much they left over?
They cancel each other.
So how much you gonna say?
0.
0.
No, you can't say 0. Why? Because you have, remember the invisible one? And the invisible one? 1 divided by 1.
Equals X.
No, we cancel the x. Let's do this again. Because this is important. I need to make it easier for you. You just have to know this one. Remember, x squared divide by x squared. If there is no number here, that means the number 1 and 1, right? Now, how many x's do we have on the top? 2. How many x's do we have on the bottom? Also 2. I'm going to cancel the x's from here and cancel the x's from here. Tell me what's the left over here? 1 divided by 1.
1.
Is going to be 1. That's mean 2 times 1. Let's keep going. Here's the plus sign. 9 divided by 3 is going to be 3. Now tell me, x cubed divide by x squared. How many x's do you have on the top?
3.
3. Here's 1, 2, 3. How many x's do we have on the bottom?
2.
1, 2. Let's cancel the x's. Cancel this one with this one. Cancel this one with this one. What's the leftover?
1x.
1x.
Or just
Write down the x here. Okay, so now let's write down everything. This is the GCF. Parentheses 2 times 1, 2 plus 3x. This is the GCF. And this is the leftover. So always you have to do that. The same thing, you can do it here. You don't have to write down the 1. How many x's do we have on the top? 2 x's. How many x's do we have on the bottom? 2 x's. Cancel this one with this one, this one with this one. What's the leftover? Don't say the leftover 0. The leftover is 1. So you're just going to say 2 times 1 is going to be 2. We're going to do more example about how to find the GCF because this is really important. I'm not here to punish you. I'm here to let you learn. If your major is biology, nursing, you will use this one when you take chemistry, when you take biology, because they're going to give you a class with genetic. You're going to use these as a math, especially with chemistry. So let's do another example. If you have 2y plus 6, they're going to ask you to find. You see, this is simple equations. The first thing always, I'm going to look here. When they ask you factor the polynomial, the first thing you have to do is always step 1. Check if there is GCF. Always. You have to check if there is GCF. So here is the thing. They're going to ask me factor this polynomial. I know this is polynomial because I have 2 terms. That means this is binomial. So how to factor this one? I'm going to do this one on the side. I'm going to say, here's the numbers. 2 and 6. Factor the 2, it's only 2 times 1. That's the only thing, 2 times 1. Or you're just going to say 2 because you can't factor the 2. It's the smallest number. Now, the 6 is 2 times 3. So now, what's the common between these two numbers? The common between these two numbers is the 2. So I'm going to put 2 here, and I'm going to say the common between these two numbers is number 2. So what I'm going to do here on the side, I'm just going to write down 2. That's the only common. Do I have common with the variables? No, you can tell, because in this term we have a variable. On this term there is no variable. So I'm not going to write down y and y because I have only one y here on this part. So that means the only common exists between these two terms is the 2. So I'm going to write down the 2. Now I need to write down the leftover here inside parentheses. Here's the plus sign. Now we're going to divide. I'm going to ask you 2y divide by 2. Do it here on the side. 2y divide by 2. Tell me what's the leftover. Which number are you going to cancel and what's the leftover?
We're gonna cancel 2 and the leftover is gonna be y.
That's it. You're going to cancel the 2's and the leftover is going to be the y. So I'm going to write down on this side y. Here's the plus sign. Now tell me, 6 divided by 2. Here's the 6. Divide by 2 is going to be 3. So I'm going to write down 3 here. This is the GCF. And this is the leftover. We're going to do more examples. By examples, everything is going to be easy. Don't scared to ask any questions. If you have 5x squared plus 15x, always you have to make sure the first step is to find sorry, the GCF. Before you move into step 2, check if there is a GCF. So check here, I'm going to take the numbers on the side, which is 5 and 15. I'm going to start with numbers. 5, it's only, there's 5 times 1. That's it. You can factor it to the smallest number. 15, you're going to say 5 times 3. So the common between numbers is the 5.
Will there always be a greatest common factor?
No, sometimes there's no greatest common factor. If there's no greatest common factor, you're going to go to step 2. That's a good question. So always you have to check if there is a greatest common factor, you're going to take it out. If there is no greatest common factor, that means you have to go to step 2. Okay? That's a good question. And we're going to learn step 2 one by one. So 15 and 5, the common is 5. So I'm going to write down 5 here. That means the common between these two terms is 5. I have to keep going to find if there's common between x squared and x. Here's x squared and here's x. X squared, which is x times x. X, just x. So the common, I'm going to take an x from each term. That means the common is x. Because I'm going to take one x from here, one x from here. That means the common is x. So I'm going to write down x here. Now I need to write down the leftover inside parentheses. So I'm done from step 1. I found the GCF. Step 2, I need to find the leftover here. Start with the first term. 5 divided by 5 is going to be 1. Here's the 1. Here's the plus sign. X squared divided by x. X squared divided by x. Do it like this. X times x, because x squared, that means x times x. And here's x by itself. Now tell me, what's the leftover here? You're gonna cancel 1x here, 1x here. What's the leftover?
X.
Just x. So I'm gonna write down x here.
Sir, I'm getting confused. We're gonna divide the 5 over
5 divided by 5 is
1.
1. X squared divided by x, I'm doing it here for you on the side, so you're gonna understand what I'm doing.
Okay, it will be 1. X,
gonna-
it will be x.
Yes, just the x. Okay? Now, we're done from the first term. Let's go to the second term. 15 divided by 5 is going to be 3. X divided by x. How much is going to be x divided by x?
1.
1. That's mean 3 times 1. Now let's write down this again. Here is the GCF. One x. Can I write down just x? Yes or no? 1x. If there is no number here, that's mean how much the number?
Just X.
That's mean it's 1. So I can write down 1x, just an x by itself, which is right if you leave the 1. It's okay if you just write down this exactly the same. It's going to be right. Plus 3 times 1 is going to be 3. That's it. This is the GCF, and this is the leftover x plus 3. Who has a question about this example?
Me. When are we gonna type 3 times 1 on the second step?
Because it's 3 times 1.
Yeah, but where come out the 3 times 1?
Because if you write down 3 times 1, they're gonna ask, especially like I'm gonna give you full grade if you're doing the test on paper, but on my lab class, they're gonna ask you simplify it. They're not gonna say you this is wrong. They're gonna say simplify it because 3 times 1 it's a 3. So you can simplify it by just multiplying these two numbers. 3 times 1 is going to be 3.
On the right side of the steps, like x squared over x, where do we get 3 times 1? There.
Oh, okay. So let's go back here. 15 divided by 5. I'm always the 3. I'm always dividing the terms by 5. So 15 divided by 5 is going to be 3. X divided by x is going to be
1.
1. You got it?
Okay, so it's not gonna be 31. It will be 3 times 1.
3 times 1. Yes, this is multiplication. 3 times 1.
Okay. Thank you.
Let's do another example here. I'm going to add 2 variables. Let's do it two variables on the next example. 3 x squared y to the power 5 plus 6 x squared y to the power 4. Don't confuse yourself. This is one term and this is another term. So we have 2 terms because this is the plus sign. So this is term, this is the second term. Now we need to find the GCF. Always the first step. You have to check. If there is GCF, you're gonna factor it out. If there is no GCF, you're just going to go to the next step. So let's find the GCF on this one. I'm gonna do the steps here on the side. The numbers, here is the 3, and here is the 6. The 3 is a 3 times 1. The 6 is a 3 times 2. That's mean the common is the 3. So I'm gonna write down the 3 here as a common. Let's go to the variables. x squared, x squared. I'm gonna say x squared and x squared, which is x times x, and this one x times x. So tell me what's the common here? Someone tell me what's the common between x squared and x squared? You see, you have x exists here and x exists here, and also we have x exists here and x exists here. So the common is what? X what? Someone tell me. X squared. That means the common is x squared. So I'm gonna write down here x squared. We done it from the x's. Now let's go to the y. I have y to the power 5, and I have y to the power 4. Y to the power 5, that's mean 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Y to the power 4, that's mean 1, 2, 3, 4. So the common here, 1, 2, 3, 4. That means how many y's we have common? I'll write it down here. Y to the power what?
4.
4.
4. So I'm gonna write down here y to the power 4. We're done. This is the GCF. I'm just gonna write down the leftover here. This is the plus sign. The plus sign here, it's here. Now I need to divide. Let's start dividing. 3 divided by 3 is going to be 1. Here's the 1. X squared divided by x squared. X squared divided by x squared. How much is left over here? X squared divided by x squared, that means x times x divided by x times x. You're gonna cancel the x and the x. So what's the leftover?
1.
1. So that's mean 1 times 1. Let's keep going. Now we have to divide the y. Y to the power 5 divided by y to the power 4. That's mean 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Divide by 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're gonna cancel 4 y's from the top, and you're gonna cancel 4 y's from the bottom. What's the leftover? You see the leftover y by itself? Here's the y. So I'm done from the first part. It's going to be 1 times 1 and y. Now let's go to the second one. 6 divided by 3 is going to be 2. Let's do the division here. 6 divided by 3 is going to be the 2. X squared divided by x squared,
1.
1 is going to be exactly the same thing here. X times x divided by x times x, cancel these, so it's going to be 1. So I'm going to say times 1. Y to the power 4 divided by y to the power 4, y to the power 4 divided by y to the power 4. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. Divide by 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to cancel 4 from the top. You're going to cancel 4 from the bottom. So the leftover is going to be 1. So this is also times 1. You see, you're done. Now we're just going to simplify this one. This is the GCF. 3x squared, y to the power 4, and the leftover 1 times 1 is going to be 1. So I'm just going to write down the y by itself. Because if there's no number here, that's mean 1 times 1 equal 1. There's a 1 here. Plus 2 times 1 times 1 is going to be 2. This is the solution. This is the GCF, and this is the leftover. So here is another example about how to find the GCF, but now let's start with the 3 terms. We're going to do exactly the same thing, but now we have 3 terms, not 2 terms. If you check the previous example, we have 2 terms. This is 1, and this is 2. Now let's do 3 terms. We're going to do exactly the same process. Here's an example. If we have 5t squared minus 10t minus 25. So now we have 3 terms. This is 1, this is 2, and this is the 3. 25. So I'm going to write down the numbers on the side. 5, 10, and 25. I'm going to start factoring these 3 numbers. 5 is 5 times 1. 10 is 5 times 2. 25 is 5 times 5. Now we have to find the common, that means a number exists in these 3 numbers, in the 3 terms, not just 2, because we have 3 terms. So the common is 5 exists here, and 5 exists on the second term, and 5 exists on the third term. So the GCF with the numbers is 5. Let's do the variables. There is t squared, and there is t, and there is no t here. With the third term, there is no t. That means there is no common with the t's. Because I have t squared here, I have t here, and there is no t. That means there is no common, because we have to find a t here, and there's not exist a t here. That means there is no common with the t's. So I'm just gonna write down, open the parentheses. That means this is the only GCF with numbers. Just a number. Now let's find the leftover. Let's write down here. The leftover, let's divide. 5 divided by 5 is going to be 1. So that was the leftover from the first term. Someone tell me. 5 divided by 5 is going to be 1. What's the leftover from this term?
T squared.
T squared. I'm just going to write down t squared here. Here's the minus. So 1 t squared minus 10 divided by 5 is going to be, I'm dividing the numbers because there's no t here. So divide the numbers and write down the variables. 10 divided by 5 is going to be 2. T, there is no t here, so I'm just going to write down the t here. Minus 25 divided by 5 is going to be 5. That's mean my solution is going to be the GCF 5. 1 t squared, I can write down just t squared because if there is no number here, that means the number here is 1. Exactly the same thing. Minus 2t minus 5. This is the GCF and this is the leftover. That's it from this example. Let's do one more example about 3 terms. Then I'm going to give you another example, which is a tricky example. now this example, if we have 15 wx minus 12 wy minus 9 wz. So I'm going to start with numbers. I'm going to write down the 15. I'm going to write down the 12. And I'm going to write down the 9. 15 is a 3 times 5. 12 is a 3 times 2 times 2. Because a 3 times 4 is going to be 12. The 4, you can factor the 4 to 2 times 2. We have to factor the number to the smallest number, which is 3 times 2 times 2. It's going to be 12. The 9 is 3 times 3. So these are the numbers. Now, the common between these three numbers, 3 and 3 and 3. So I'm going to write down these 3 here on the side. Now, who gonna tell me what's the common in the variables? What's the variable exist here and here and here?
3.
No, I'm not talking about the numbers, the variables. We have wx here, we have wy here, and we have wz here. What's the common with the variables?
W.
You see, w exists here, w exists with this term, and w exists with this term. So that means I'm just gonna write down w here. Now we're done. We're just gonna write down the leftover. 15 divided by 3 is going to be 5. Let's do it here on the side. I'm gonna divide the whole term. 15 wx divided by 3w. 15 divided by 3 is going to be 5. Now tell me, can you cancel the w? Because I have w here and w
Yeah.
here. Cancel the w. What's the leftover? 5 what?
X.
5x. So I'm going to write down 5x. Let's do the second one. Here's the minus. 12 wy divide, you can do the sign also, minus 12. It's okay. Over 3w. Now negative 12 divided by 3 is going to be negative 4. Cancel the w. What's the leftover here? Someone tell me. What's the leftover? Y.
Y.
So it's going to be here minus 4, and here's the y. Minus 4y. Let's do the last one. Negative 9wz divided by 3w. Negative 9 divided by 3 is going to be negative 3. Cancel the w. What's the leftover? Z. So I'm going to write down here minus 3z.
Sir, I had a question. It's gonna be minus, or it's gonna be negative 3c, negative 4y.
If you take this sign with the term, you're going to read it here, negative 9wz. The result is negative 3z. But when you plug in here, you're going to say minus, which is the same thing. The minus and the negative, the same sign, okay? So when I wrote here, negative 9wz, I can say minus 9wz, and I can say negative 9wz. It's not going to change anything, okay? And when you get the result, you can say minus 3z or you can say negative 3z. Okay, so it doesn't change anything. You see, I have only one sign, the negative, and here the negative. There is no sign here that means it's positive. So it doesn't change anything. You can say negative, you can say minus, it's the same thing. Don't confuse yourself with the sign. So this is the GCF, and this is the leftover. This step is really important to find the GCF before we start doing the fractal. Now I'm going to give you an example, and I need you to solve this example and type the result in the chat. This one for you because this is really important for the next step. Now, who's gonna tell me what's the common focus on this example? If you have 4x parentheses 5x minus 3 minus 5x minus 3. Who's gonna tell me this, in this case, what's the common between this term and this one? Look to the part. What's the common? Something exists here and exists here exactly the same.
X.
You're right, but not the x. Look, which x? This one or this one? This one or this one?
The 5x.
5x, keep going, 5x minus 3. Is that the same thing here? With the
Yes.
parentheses, is that the same thing? You see, this is important because we're going to use this step when we factor by grouping. So check here inside the parentheses. So always when you get example like this, look inside the parentheses. It's exactly the same thing. 5x minus 3, 5x minus 3. So check what I'm going to do. I'm going to write down one of these parentheses, just one. This one exactly the same thing. I'm just going to write down 5x minus 3, just one parentheses. Now I'm going to open another parenthesis. This one exists here. On this part, what's the leftover? This parentheses exists here. What's the leftover here?
The 4x.
The 4x.
Here's the 4x. Okay? Here, now, this parentheses exists here. What's the leftover here?
-5.
That's it. Is that hard? We're going to do another example. So every time when you see these two parentheses exactly the same, you're going to write down here. This one exists here. What's the leftover on this part? The 4x. This one exists here. What's the leftover from this part? The -5. There's -5. You see, I said -5. I said -5 is the same thing. So don't confuse yourself by negative or minus. -5 or -5. The same thing. We're going to do 2 more examples on this one because this is really important for the next method. Let's do another example or 2 more examples. If you have t parentheses 7 minus m plus s parentheses 7 minus m. Check here. The first thing I'm going to look to this example, the parentheses, I have 7 minus n, m, 7 minus m, exactly the same thing. So what I'm going to do, write down just one, 7 minus m. I'm going to open another parenthesis. 7 minus m exists here. So the leftover from the first part is what?
T
I write down the t.
and plus 5.
This is s, not 5. Okay. So 7 minus m exists here. The leftover is plus s. Plus 5, it doesn't matter. If you consider this one a 5, you're going to write down 5.
I'm
So-
sorry. I thought you wanna. I
It
thought you
doesn't
wanna.
matter. It doesn't matter. That's when you know what you're doing. So if it's S, 5, 5. That's it. This is for this example. We're going to use these steps when we start factoring by grouping. Let's do another example. If you have 5x parentheses 3x plus 2 plus 6 3x plus 2. You see, I have exactly the same parentheses. So I'm going to write down these two parentheses here. Just one, 3x plus 2. And the leftover from the first part is 5x. The leftover from the second part is plus or positive 6, plus 6. That's it. Here's another example. Before we move on to the next method, 6m 9 minus m plus 5n 9 minus m. So I have the same parentheses. I'm going to write down these parentheses here. So it's going to be 9 minus m. And open another parentheses. What's the leftover from this part is 6m
Plus 5 n.
5n. That's it. So write down this example. Then we're going to move to the next part, step 2, when we have 4 terms. Now we're going to work with the step 2. If we have polynomial with 4 terms, we're going to use the method factoring by grouping. Let's do an example about that, and you will see how the factoring by grouping is work. So now this example, if we have R, let's do it with the X, so I'm not getting confused. If we have X cubed plus X squared plus 8x plus 8. You see how many terms do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to ask you, what's the first step we have to do? Go back to the chart. What's the first step? On the chart?
Factoring by grouping or?
No, step 1. Step 1, always I told you have to do this
Find
step.
the greatest common factor.
Perfect. Always you have to check if there's a greatest common factor. Now let's check here. Do we have numbers here? We have to find a common exist on all terms. There is no number here. It's just the one. There is no number here. And there's a number, there's a number. So with numbers, there's no GCF. What about the variables? There's x cubed here, there's x squared here, there's x here, but there is no x here. So that means there's no GCF in all these terms. That's why we're gonna go to step 2. So step 1, finding the GCF, we check that, we didn't find the GCF, that's why we're gonna go to step 2. In step 2, I have 4 terms, so I'm gonna use this method, factoring by grouping. Let me show you what's the meaning of factoring by grouping. Factoring by grouping, that means you're gonna group 2 terms and you're gonna group these two terms. So check what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put parentheses here, okay? And I'm gonna put parentheses here. We're gonna group two terms in each side. So let's now go to the next step. So the first step always you have to do is to group. You're gonna group the first two terms and you're gonna group the last two terms. Now I'm gonna tell you the next step. I'm gonna hide this part. See, I'm not gonna look to this part. I'm just gonna look to the first parentheses. Tell me, what's the common between x cubed and x squared? You have to work on this one. Tell me the GCF between x cubed and x squared. Do the math on the side. What's the GCF between x cubed and x squared?
X squared.
X squared. So the GCF x squared. Check, I'm gonna write down the x squared here. Open parentheses. I'm working only on this part. Now tell me what's the leftover here. If I have divided x cubed divided by x squared, you can do it here on the side. You're gonna say x cubed divided by x squared. How much the result?
X squared.
No, because 3 minus 2, here's the x. I have 3 x's on the top, okay? Let's do it. X cubed and x squared. How many x's do you have on the top? 1, 2, 3. How many x's do you have on the bottom? 1, 2. Cancel 2 x's from here, 2 x's from here. What's the leftover?
X. That is 1.
Here is x. Okay? Plus x squared divided by x squared. How much the result? That means you have 2 x's on the top and how many x's on the bottom? 2 x's. Cancel these 2 x's with these 2 x's. How much they left over?
1. Sir, I had a question. To find the GMZ, that is the x squared, we divide x cubed
by the GCF. Okay?
But,
Then
but how do we find the? I just forget. How do we find the the
GCF.
GF?
Okay.
Yes.
We need to find the GCF between these two terms, right? So remember, we're gonna write down x cubed, which is x times x times x squared, which is x times x. The common is what? This one and this one, right? This one and this one. So what's the common? 2 x's from here and 2 x's from here. So that means what?
X squared.
X squared. So
Oh,
this is
because I get confused because I thought that it was like x cube over x squared, and it was equal 1.
Yeah, this is when you find the leftover here. You're gonna do these steps. You're gonna divide x cubed by x squared. It's going to be x. Then you're gonna divide x squared by x squared. It's going to be 1. Okay. This is when you find the leftover here between the parentheses. Okay.
Okay.
Now we're done from the first parentheses. Now I'm gonna open the second parentheses and hide the first one. Let's do these steps also here. Now tell me, there's a number here and there's a number here. What's the common between 8x and 8? What's the common between 8 and 8? Is that the same number?
It's x.
No,
No.
I'm not talking about the x, just the 8. Was like, let's write down the terms. What's the common between 8x and 8? What's the thing exists here and exists here?
It will be 8.
Just 8. So write down positive 8. You see what's the common? Like something exists here and exists here at the same time. It's just the number 8 because it exists here and exists here. So here's the 8. This is the GCF. Something exists on this term and something exists on this term. Now the next part, we're going to divide. 8x divide by 8. 8x divide by 8. How much is going to be?
X.
Because you can cancel the 8, so it's going to be x. 8 divided by 8 is going to be what?
1.
1. So it's going to be 1. That means it's going to be plus 1. You got it now? This is the grouping. We're going to group the first 2 terms and we're going to group the last 2 terms. Then we're going to do these steps. Now check here the next step. Do we got exactly the same parentheses here?
Yes, we do.
That's when you got the same parentheses, this is mean you are doing the right way to solve by factor and by grouping. So you have to get exactly the same parentheses. Check what I'm going to do. I'm going to take these 2 here, write down as a 1. Now tell me what's the leftover. What's the leftover from the first part? Here.
X squared plus 8.
X squared. And the leftover from the second part is going to be plus 8. That's it. This is the solution. This is the solution for this polynomial by using factor and by grouping. We got the solution here, which is x plus 1, x squared plus 8. So factor and by grouping, always when you see you have 4 terms, let's do another example. If we have x squared plus 8x plus xy plus 8y. So you see, the first thing I'm going to check if there is GCF, which is step 1 on the chart. There is no GCF because you see we have x squared, we have x, and we have x here, but there's no x here. That means there is no common with the variables. There is no number here. There is 8, no number, 8. So there is no common with numbers also. That's why we're going to use factor and by grouping, which is step 2. I have 4 terms, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to use factor and by grouping. We're going to group the first 2 terms, and we're going to group the last 2 terms. I'm going to hide this one. Who's going to tell me what's the common between x squared and 8x? Take your time.
Or would it just be X?
It just be x, perfect. Let's do it on the side why you get an x. So there is no number here, so there is no common with the numbers. I have x squared, which is x times x, and I have x, which is just x. So the common is just the x. So this is the common between these two numbers. So I'm gonna write down x here. Now I need to write down the leftover. Do it on the side. X squared divided by x. X squared divided by x. That means x times x divided by x. Cancel these two x's. What's the leftover?
X.
Write down the x. Here is the plus. 8x divided by x. You're gonna
8.
cancel the x. So 8. So let me plus 8. Close the parentheses. We're done from the first one. We're done from the first two parentheses, two terms, the first parentheses. So now I'm gonna move this one here. Now tell me, what's the common between xy and 8y? What's
Y.
the just the y, because xy and 8y. You see the two terms, xy, 8y. The common is the y. So I'm gonna write down plus y. Y plus y. Be careful here. I said the common is y. That means positive y. So I'm gonna write down plus y. Now we're going to write down the leftover here. How are we gonna do that? xy divided by y. xy divided by y. What's the leftover?
X.
Because you can cancel the y, so the leftover is x. I'm gonna write down x. Now 8y divided by y. You're gonna cancel the y. What's the leftover? 8.
8.
It's positive.
Yes.
That means going to be plus 8.
Sir, so the procedure it's easy, but I got confused like the steps how to do it. First we're gonna find the common between x squared plus 8x, right? And then we're gonna put it like that common on the before the parentheses, and it will be x. Then we're gonna divide, well not divide but separately divide the x squared plus 8x by x. So it's gonna be x
it's gonna be
squared
x.
by
X squared divided by x. You see?
yes.
It's going to be the leftover here is going to be x. Then you're going to divide 8x by x. How much is going to be 8? We're done from this part. We're going to go to the second part. What's the common between xy and 8y? We said the y, so here's the y. Now we're going to divide this one by this one. Because remember, we hide this parentheses.
Yeah, so the first thing that we're gonna find, it's the common, right?
Yes, the
That's
first
all.
we need to find the common. Then we're going to divide each term by the common. Each term by the common, okay?
Okay.
Now tell me how I'm gonna know I'm doing the right step. I'm doing the right step. Why? Because I got exactly the same parentheses. X plus 8, x plus 8. That's mean I'm doing the right thing. So I'm gonna say here, it's x plus 8. Tell me what's the leftover here between the parentheses.
X plus y.
X plus y. X plus y. That's it. This is the solution for this example. So if we have 15 x squared plus 20x minus 12x minus 16. Always, I'm telling you, always before you start using, you already know 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 terms, and I already know when I have 4 terms, I'm going to use factoring by grouping. But always you have to do step 1. Check with the step 1. Do we have GCF with this example? Yes or no? If there is no GCF, you have to factor it out. If there is no GCF, you have to move to the next step, which is using the grouping, factoring by grouping. Check. I have a variable with the numbers 15. Let's check the numbers first. 15, 20, 12, and 16. The 15 is a 3 times 5. See, I'm checking the numbers. The 20 is 2 times 5 times 2. 2 times 5 times 2. Because 10 times 2 is going to be 20. The 12 is 2 times 2 times 3. The 16 is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Can you find a number exist in all these numbers? 3 does not exist on the last one. 5 does not exist here and does not exist here. 2 does not exist on the first one. That means there is no common between the numbers. What about the variables? If you check the variables, there is x squared here, there is x here, there is again x here, and there is no number here, and there is no variable here. Do I have? Okay, let's keep going. Now we have 4 terms. We're gonna factor by using factoring by grouping. We're gonna group the first 2 terms, and we're going to group the last 2 terms. This is really important because I need you to focus on one thing. So we're gonna say this is a group, and here is the other group. Now I'm going to hide this group, the second one. I'm just gonna focus on the first one. Now tell me, 15 and the 20. Do it on the side. 15 x squared. That means it's 3 times 5 and x times x. And the 20, you see, I did the numbers and I did the variables here at the same time. 20x, which is 4 times 5, and here is the x. Who's gonna tell me what's the common with numbers and what's the common with the variables?
The common with numbers is 5,
5, so I'm gonna write down 5.
and with the variables it's 1x.
That means x. So this is the GCF, okay? So I'm gonna write down with the first 2 groups, 5x. Now, next step, you're going to divide. 15x squared divided by 5x. 15x squared divided by 5x. 15 divided by 5 is going to be
3.
X squared divided by x.
1x.
Let's mean x. So here is the 3x. This is the plus. 20x divide by 5x. 20 divided by 5.
4.
4. X divided by x.
X.
No, because we're gonna cancel it.
It's gonna be the 4 by themselves.
Just 4 by
Yes.
itself. So here's the 4. Close the parentheses. So this is the GCF between these two terms, and this is the leftover. So we're done from the first group. I'm gonna take this one and hide the first group to work on the second group. We're gonna do exactly the same steps. So negative 12x is going to be negative 3 times 4, and here is the x. Negative 16 is going to be negative 4 times 4. There is no x. Who gonna tell me what's the common between these two terms?
The common, it will be, and the numbers, it will be 4. And
Oh.
and the variable, it will be x.
No, because there is no x here.
So it doesn't stay by themselves, like by itself, the x.
Yeah, because this is x with this term, right? Do you have an x here?
No,
So-
we don't.
So the common is just the 4. But check here. Do you have another common with this term and this one? We said the 4, which is right. Do you have another common? Something exists here and exists here.
Negative?
The negative sign, perfect. So you have to be careful because there is negative sign here and negative sign here. That means the negative is also a common, okay? So the common is negative, you see, negative and 4. So I'm gonna write down here, negative 4. Now, we need to write down the leftover. So we're going to divide. I'm gonna do the division here. Now, divide the first term on negative 4. Negative 12x divide by negative 4. Tell me the result. Negative 12 divide by negative 4.
-3.
No, be careful with the sign. It's really important. Negative 12 divide by negative 4. Go ahead, use the calculator. It's fine. Negative 12 divide by negative 4 is going to be
Oh, it come out in decimals.
no.
On my calculator, it come out in decimals.
Negative 12 divide by negative 4. Now tell me 12 divided by 4, how much is going to be? Let's use this one. You see, I have calculator here.
It will be 3.
3, yes. So you have to be careful when you're dividing the number. Sometimes you know how to solve the examples, but you're gonna do a simple mistakes and everything is going to be wrong.
So
Now-
when there's just one x and one number, it will be the x stay by itself. So it won't be one x, like it will be just a number.
Just the number, yeah, because there is no x here. So it's gonna be just 12, negative 12 divided by negative 4 is going to be 3. There is no x here, so you have to write it down. You got it?
Yes.
So I'm gonna write down here 3x. Now, the next one, we're gonna divide the second term on negative 4. So negative 16 divided by negative 4, how much is going to be the result?
-4.
No, do
No,
it again.
4 positive. I'm sorry.
Yeah, 4. So give me positive 4. So positive 4, that's mean a plus 4. So we're done. Now tell me the next step. We're done from these steps. Do we have to get the same, exactly the same parentheses? That means we are on the right method, or the right way. 3x plus 4. I'm going to open another parentheses. Write down the leftover from this part, which is
5x -4. -4.
doesn't matter. Negative or minus. The best thing you say -4, -4. That's it for this example. If you got wrong, the numbers here on the side, which is 20, 15, 12, and 9. The 20 is 2 times 5 times 2. 2 times 5, 10, times 2 is going to be 20. 15 is 3 times 5. 12 is 2 times 2 times 3. 9 is 3 times 3. So what's the number exists here and here and here and here? Can you find the number exists in all these numbers?
There's no.
So there's no number. What about the variable? Can you find the variable exists here, 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 and here? There's x squared here. There's an x here. There's an x here, but there is no x here. That means the x is not a common variable in all these terms. What about the y? There is no y here. There is a y. There is no y here. There is a y. So the y is also not a common. So we have to go to the next step, which is grouping. So we're going to group the first two terms, and we're going to group the last two terms. Now we're going to hide this one. Tell me what's the common now with the 20 and 15?
5.
5. So I'm going to write down 20x squared, which is, you can say 2.
5.
That's good. I'm just factoring x times x. And the 15xy is equal to 3 times 5 x times y. So the common is 5. And what else? The common with numbers. What about the variables? What's the common with the variables?
Sir, I got confused there because there's x times x, but there's x times y.
Yeah, because check here. 20x squared, the 20 is 2 times 2 times 5, right? X squared is x times y. 15xy. The 15 is what?
3 times 5 x times y.
X times y. So because you can't factor the x times y, you're just gonna write down x times y. Now tell me, the common with numbers is 5. Do you have common with variables?
X.
The x.
So the common with variables is the x, so 5x. Now we're going to divide. 20x squared divided by 5x. 20x squared divided by 5x. 20 divided by 5.
4.
X squared divided by x.
X.
X. So it's going to be 4x. Here is the minus. 15xy divided by 5x. 15 divided by 5. 3. What about xy divide by x?
Y.
Y. So it's going to be 3y. So I'm going to write down 3y, close the parentheses. So we're done from the first group. I'm going to take this one here to hide the first group, and we're going to work exactly the same thing on the second group. Now tell me here, with the second group, what's the common between 12x and 9y? 12, let's factor the 12, is the 3 times 4. And here's the x. The y is 3 times 3, and here's the y. Now tell me what's the common between these numbers?
3.
The common is 3. So it's going to be plus 3. Now we're going to go to the next step. We're going to divide 12x divided by 3. How much the result? We're dividing 12x by 3. How much the result? 12 divided by 3 is going to be
It'd be 4x.
4. There is no x here, so I'm just going to write down the x. So it's going to be 4x. Divide the last number, which is 9 divide, or we can say negative 9y divided by 3. Negative 9 divided by 3 is going to be negative 3, and here is the y. There is the y. So it's going to be minus 3y. Now, if you check the parentheses to make sure I'm doing the right one, I have exactly the same parentheses. So I'm going to write down the parentheses here, just one. And write down the leftover, which is 5x plus 3.
Sir, when we're factoring and there's just one variable of it, like one x and one y, it's gonna be just the number by itself.
If there is an x here,
no, for example, on
like this
the
one. Okay, I got it. Like when you're talking about this one to find the common.
no. For example, on the paper that is on the right,
Here, okay.
there's one x and one y.
So it's gonna be just a number here because you have different variables.
Okay, so it just reaches a number.
Yeah, because there is different variables. That means there is no common with the numbers. So with the variables, because we have x here and y here. If you check the previous one, we have 2 x's here and xy. The common between this one and this one x from here and 1 x from here. So we have an x here. Okay. So when you have 3 terms, so if we have this example, x squared minus 2x minus 24. How are we going to use the AC method? I already know I'm going to use the AC method when I have 3 terms, 1, 1, 2, and 3. AC method. That's why they call it AC method. Always the number here is the A, and the number here is the C. AC method does mean A times C. Tell me what's the number here?
1.
1. What's the number here? 24. I'm not going to care about the sign. So 1 times 24 is going to be 24. This is the first step. We're just going to do 2 steps. Then we're going to do exactly, because we're going to get 4 terms and we're going to do exactly the same factor and by grouping. The first step, always the number with the x squared is going to be the a, and the number by itself is going to be the c. 1 times 24 is going to be 24. Now I need to factor the 24 to 2 numbers. When you multiply these 2 numbers, you're going to get 24. 1 times 24 is going to be 24. 2 times 12 is going to be 24. 3 times 8 is going to be 24. And 4 times 6 is going to be 24. Now, here is the important step. You're going to use these numbers. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 possibilities to use. When I add these 2 numbers or minus these 2 numbers, you have to get -2. -2, the middle term. So which number? If you say 1 minus 24, you're going to get -2. You're going to get -23. 2 minus 12, you're going to get -10. Or 12 minus 2, you're going to get 10. 3 minus 8, you're going to -5. 8 minus 3 is going to be 5. 4 minus 6 is going to be 2. -2. So I'm going to use this one. 4 minus 6, that's mean +4 minus 6 is going to be -2. So this option is going to work. So check what I'm going to do. I'm going to write down the x squared plus 4x. You see the first number, I'm going to add with x minus 6. I'm going to add x. Then I'm going to write down the last term, -24. Let's do the steps again. A is the number here with the x squared. C is the number by itself. 1 times 24, I'm not going to care about the sign, is a 24. Then I'm going to factor the number 24. 1 times 24, 2 times 12 is 24. 3 times 8 is going to be 24. 4 times 6 is 24. I need to use one of these options to get -2. The only option is here is 4 minus 6. That means +4 minus 6. So I'm going to add down the x squared plus 4. I'm going to add x minus 6. I'm going to add x minus 24. Now, how many terms do we have here? We have here now 4 terms. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to exactly use the factor and by grouping. So this method, these are the only steps extra. When you get 4 terms, you're going to do exactly the same method, factor and by grouping. So you're going to group the first 2 terms and the last 2 terms. Now you're going to hide this group. What's the common between x squared and 4x? Then do exactly the same steps. What's the common between x squared and 4x? Who's going to tell me? X squared is x times x. 4x is 4 times x. What's the common between these 2 numbers? These 2 terms?
X.
X. So I'm going to write down x here. Now I'm going to divide. X squared divide by x. That means x times x divided by x. How much is going to be? Cancel this x and this x. What's the leftover?
X.
So it's going to be x. Divide plus 4x divided by x.
4.
Perfect, 4, because you're gonna cancel the x, the leftover is just 4, so it's gonna be plus 4. Close the parentheses. We're done from the first group. I'm gonna take this one to the second, so I can see the second group. Now, the second group, I have negative 6x and I have negative 24. So let's factor the first one. Check what I'm doing here. This is the first one. Negative 6, and here is the x. 24 is negative 6 times 4, and there is no x. Now tell me what's the common between these two terms?
Negative 6.
Negative 6. You see, there is negative sign also. So I'm going to say negative 6 here. Open parentheses. Now let's divide. Negative 6x divided by negative 6. Is going to be what?
X.
Can you just x? Because you're going to cancel negative 6 with negative 6. So it's going to be just x. So here is the x. Negative 24 divided by negative 6.
Negative 4.
No.
Oh.
Don't forget the sign. Negative 24 divided by negative 6 is going to be 4. That's mean a plus 4.
I said negative 4. I'm sorry. Oh no, it will be positive, right?
Yeah, positive 4. So check now with all these steps. I'm gonna know like I'm doing the right thing. Why? Because I got exactly the same parentheses. That means this one similar to this one. So I'm gonna write down x plus 4, and the leftover is going to be x minus 6. That's it. So the only extra steps is these, when you multiply the numbers and find the numbers here inside. And you see, now when we get 4 terms, we're going to do exactly the same steps, factoring by grouping. So write down these before we do another example. Let's do another example about how to use the AC method, because it's really important. Here's another example. U squared minus 10u plus 21. Again, always the A is the number. I'm going to find the AC here. Always A is the number here. This is the A, and this is the C. 1 times 21 is going to be 21. Now we need to factor the 21 to 2 numbers. The first one, 1 to 21. 2, you can't use the 2, 3 and 7, because 3 times 7 is going to be 21. Now I need to use one of these options to get the middle term, which is negative 10. So negative 10. If I add these two numbers, it's going to be positive 10. So I'm going to say minus 3 minus 7. Minus 3 minus 7 is going to be minus 10 or negative 10. I'm going to write down the u squared here, minus 3u minus 7u plus 21. Now let's check the next step. This is the 21 here. We have 4 terms, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm gonna group the first 2 terms and the last 2 terms. Next step, we're going to hide this part. And who gonna tell me what's the common between u squared and negative 3u?
U.
Perfect. U. Let's do it here on the side. So to the rest, u squared is u times u. 3u is that's meaning 3 times u. So the common is the u. So here is the u. Now we're going to divide. U squared divided by u. U squared divided by u. That means u times u divided by u. Cancel the u. So it's going to be just u. Minus 3u divided by u. Cancel the u. So it's going to be just a 3. So it's going to be minus a 3. I'm done from the first part. Let's go ahead and cover the first one, and work on the second one. This is really important. We're gonna solve a lot of examples like this, and I'm gonna tell you what to do. Now, what's the common between 7u and 21? Negative 7u is negative 7 times u. 21 is 7 times 3. So the common between these is just the 7. That's mean, check here, I'm gonna write down 7, that's mean a plus or positive 7. Open parentheses, let's divide. Negative 7u divided by 7. Cancel the 7 is going to be negative u. The leftover is negative u. Now, 21 divided by 7 is going to be 3. That's mean a plus 3. So we're done from the second part. Now check here's the important steps. After we did everything and we walked 3 steps, we found that this parentheses, it's not similar to this parentheses. We have exactly the same u and the 3, u and the 3, but here u minus a 3. Here, negative u plus a 3. They are totally different parentheses. Check what I'm gonna do. I'm going to write down this one exactly the same. U minus a 3. I'm going to change this sign from positive to negative. And I'm going to change all the sign here. This is negative u, is going to be positive u. This is positive 3, is going to be negative 3. So every time when you're doing the right steps and you found that you have totally different parentheses with different sign. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna write down the first one, change the sign from positive to negative 7, change the sign from negative u to positive u, change the sign from positive 3 to negative 3. Now, if you check the parentheses, it's exactly the same parentheses. So we're gonna write down u minus a 3, and the leftover is going to be u minus 7. That's it. So you're gonna do these steps always when you have totally different parentheses. You're gonna write down the first one, change the sign here from positive to negative, change the sign here from negative to positive, from positive to negative. That's it for today. We're gonna do more examples tomorrow on another lecture. we're gonna solve more examples about this method, and also we're going to do the last method when you have two terms. Then we're going to solve more examples about the whole section. R1, sorry, R4 part 1 and R4 part 2 is going to be tomorrow. More examples about these two sections.